somebody who actually knows this stuff. She's been around D.C. for a long period of time, BNC's chief foreign affairs correspondent Nayyera Haq. Not that long. She's still very young. She also served in the Obama administration. Just getting your thoughts overall, the news that came out, shocking to us. Your reaction when you first heard about it?
We lost a hero today, right? He was an icon not just for those who work in foreign policy and diplomacy, but also for young black people. Colin Powell never forgot where he came from. He was from the South Bronx. He returned there many times in his tenure as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, spent even more time there as retired, and specifically at one session at Morris High School told the young black students this: don't think you are limited by your background. Challenges are there to be knocked down. That was very important to him. It's a big part of why I think he garnered all of our respect, because he never forgot who he is and where he comes from. It's also a big part of why he was able to cross party lines after the Iraq War, after being the only one in that administration to take any sort of accountability for lying to the American public. He then crossed party lines to endorse President Obama, and that was going against a significant Republican who was also a military veteran. That was John McCain. So it was not an easy choice, but he was the type of person in Washington that all people from all parties felt was guided by a moral compass and not just by partisan politics.
Yeah, Nayyera, and you know how things work in Washington. We've been monitoring the social media accounts, statements, looking for those from the former presidents, including President Obama. Those are yet to come, but we suspect they'll come soon as they coordinate probably with the current president and don't want to get out in front of him. What do you expect these former presidents, leaders to say about Colin Powell? Why was he so special, and why was he able to work across party lines in this way and become part of the inner circle's most trusted advisor to so many?
He was one of those people, given his experience as a young black man in the 1950s and having worked his way through the highest ranks of the Army. He was the first black person to lead a division of the military and then rose to the rank of effectively running all of the military branches. So he was not just the nation's top soldier who spoke with credibility about war. He also was, in that sense, a good soldier. He was the person who was able to defer to presidents, give them guidance, and ultimately take their guidance and their orders as commander-in-chief. Now, that's also maybe what put him in the way of some of that partisan fire, because he was that good soldier and took the information he was given, trusted the sourcing, because that was sourcing from the White House, and then was the face of delivering that to the United Nations and to the American public. And that, you know, we have never really gotten the full accounting from him directly of how he felt in the aftermath of that, though he did step up and was the only one in the administration to take accountability for it. But that was likely because he recognized that that is the role he had played as trusted person to the American public. He also was one of the few people to cross from the military over into diplomacy. And that showed him a different side of engaging with the global community as Secretary of State. And it was very controversial at the time, because military members and diplomats look at the world a little differently. Some people compared it to taking an engineer who makes a product and having them then, you know, run the marketing division. But that also gave him a really important look at how the globe looks at the United States. And he, for somebody who came out of the military, was, after the Iraq War, very anti-military engagement, very pro the other tools the United States has at its disposal, including humanitarian aid, including democracy promotion. So one of those few voices who's done all of the things in power and in Washington, but never forgot what it meant to be a black man doing all of those things.
Yeah, a very proud black man too, very respected by all parties, all races at the same time. And perhaps in his death, Nayyera, and I know I might be stretching, maybe a little naive, as all these tributes and people talking about Colin Powell and his death, maybe it will make them think about their own humanity and their own sincerity and their own love for this country in his death. I may be asking a lot, but hopefully for maybe a couple of days, it could help bridge some of the gaps that we have in this country when it comes to the parties that we have right now, because we're so divided.
I think it'll be a very revealing moment of where we are in partisan politics, because it could be very easy for the left to sling arrows at Colin Powell for the Iraq War. It could be very easy for the right to sling arrows at him and his legacy because he broke ranks and voted for President Obama twice and didn't vote for Trump. So this will be a very revealing moment for our country and where we are if we can truly just honor somebody who served their entire life for their country, or if it's going to be just another in the latest string of partisan moments.
Well, they'll all come together, to honor him. General Lloyd Austin, talked about standing on the shoulders of giants in that speech when he took the reins, and he cited Colin Powell as somebody who really should be credited with the next generation of great soldiers, great Black leaders. Nayyera, thank you. We appreciate your context. Always, we'll be watching today as this network honors and chronicles the career of General Colin Powell.